Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look at ways that we can work together to help each other in the ministry. Today we have with us Mr. David Brown. He has worked with the Free Will Baptist Foundation for more than 28 years, and he has actually served as the director for somewhere around 13 years, I think it is, David. But he's got a lot of experience with the Free Will Baptist Foundation. And David, we just thank you for coming in and being with us today.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Well, there's probably someone sitting out there listening to this and they're thinking, what does the Free Will Baptist Foundation do? So tell our listeners the work of the foundation kind of in a nutshell and what they might do to take advantage of that.
Sure. Well, I have described us sometimes as the stealth department because we kind of go fly under everybody's radar. But basically, we are the planned giving arm of the denomination, and planned giving, can happen in different ways. One way would be just through your estate plan, and we do offer estate plans. We offer complete estate plan, not just the living trust, but every document that you need. And we encourage people to leave something out of their estate to Free Will Baptist Ministry. So that's a way that you could do a planned gift. Another way is through what would be more of a formal planned gift, where you actually get benefit from it during your lifetime, a stream of income. And then when you go home to be with the Lord, that goes to whatever ministry you choose. Another way would be we offer what we call money management trust. And when an individual sets up a money management trust, they're required to designate a Free Will Baptist ministry for 20% of it if they die without revoking it. So that's a provisional way you could make a gift. And everything we do is to further Free Will Baptist ministries. And it's not about trying to build up the foundation, it's about trying to build up all of our other ministries.
So you're talking about planned giving, you're talking about estate planning. All of us have some resources. You can't help but think of the parable of the talents.
Right.
And so especially over the accumulation, what can be accumulated over a lifespan, we pass away, our spouse has passed away, and it sounds like part of what your work is to say, well, whatever that would be, to make sure that particular estate could be resolved well, and in other words, that children are not fighting over what's left. But also, I've heard you talk about tithing and giving gifts on the estate, and that's something that's part of what is this whole process then.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when we think of tithing, we only think of our current income, and when you think about it, you have many times may have a house that you may have paid, very little for, and now it's worth quite a bit of money, and if you really haven't tithed on that increase,
right?
And so by taking a tithe of your estate, 10%. You could make a significant gift, and yet at the same time, your children are not going to be mad at you if they only get 90%. So
yeah, they're going to be pretty pleased. And then also, we'll talk about this in a minute, the way when you have estate plans like this, you're less likely to have squabbling between children.
Exactly.
Because things are kind of set up. When you usually hear about foundations, you think of private foundations, the Ford Foundation. You think of foundations with universities like Harvard. Everyone talks about the big foundation they have. And so it sounds like the world's way ahead of us in many ways. Foundations are used to support professors and support the work of universities and different colleges and so forth. But I think what you're saying is if I give part of my estate, I could be giving a gift that continues in many cases to help the Lord's work until the Lord would return.
Right. Yeah, that's another aspect that I really didn't mention is we encourage people when they do leave a gift to leave it in the form of an endowment so that it's continually giving. And, in one sense, when you leave an endowment, it's almost like you're still here.
Yes.
At least your money is, and it's continuing to bless God's work. And, it kind of touches on some of the things that, I've heard you speak about, Hezekiah and what he he when he was being punished for showing people all the stuff that he had in his kingdom.
Yes.
And the Lord told him, well, it's not going to happen in your generation. And then he was happy about that. Well, none of us should be happy about that. We should be thinking about the next generation. And we can't be here for them, but we can help supply some finances for them.
Excellent, excellent. The university that I worked at before I worked here had an endowed chair for visual impairment. And they were able to pay that professor just off the interest, and will be able to, until the Lord returns. And so perhaps the Lord has really blessed some folks that are listening out there, and they could have an endowed missionary. They could have an endowed professor. There's all kinds of things they could do. And what you're saying is it is a way of helping the next generation to achieve and to be able to do the work of the Lord real well.
Yeah, we actually do have an endowed chair at Welch College. It was from a church that was closing up, and they sold the assets. And they'd always been very mission-minded and very much a supporter of Welch, and so they endowed the missions professorship chair. Now, technically probably isn't enough, but it's pretty close to supporting that.
It helps out a lot, and it's money that will always be there and will always give. So we encourage folks to think about their estate planning, and actually that's something that you all help them with, and what you provide is really very inexpensive. Could you talk a bit about the estate planning process?
Well, it's a comprehensive estate plan. It includes all the documents you would need, not just for we emphasize the revocable living trust. The reason being is because wills are very easily challenged, and a lot of times what we see is people have left something to ministry, but family squabbles, and it's very inexpensive to challenge a will, and a lot of times those bequests don't wind up going to the ministry that they had wanted it to go to. So with a trust, that's much more difficult. And so that's the reason why we emphasize trust. But we also are wanting people to be able to protect their families. And, cases of incapacitation, I think we're going to, as the baby boomers age, I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Yes.
And to have a plan in place for when you are incapacitated is very valuable to your family. And generally speaking, we know that men usually die before women, and it seems to me be a great gift to your wife to be able to take care of all that for her. And of course, one of the services we offer is we will come in and actually sit down with the survivor and also with the children later as a part of the estate settlement. It's a free service that we offer with each estate plan. I think that's very valuable.
And so you guys have sent people out, representatives at various churches. Folks could also go to fwbgifts.org, or they could call 877-336-7575.
Right.
And you could get more information about estate planning.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like, in what I've heard with the work that you all have done, is that it takes a lot of the stress off of people because things are decided and planned. And also, when you do come out after a death has happened, it sounds like it's a way of just kind of helping people through a process. And you've got a person that's helping them through that's what they do.
Exactly.
They're doing that all the time, and so they're pretty skilled at it, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
So we encourage folks to look into the estate planning that the Free Will Baptist Foundation provides. There are other ways to invest with the foundation as well, and because of that, you guys are able to award some grants often from year to year.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about how that works.
Well, we have what we call our money management trust pool, which is mostly it is ministries that have placed money with us, but in some cases individuals have also. And it's a large pool of money, and we define the income very narrowly there as interest and dividends. And so by defining the income in that manner, we can strategically go in and capture some capital gains on some of the stocks that we own, and we're using that to fund the grant program. So far we've done $500,000 a year for the last 3 years, and we already have plans for doing that again in 2020.
Wow. So by people investing their money in this way, it's actually helping many
Absolutely.
ministries presently. Maybe give us a couple of examples of some of the grants that have been used, how they have been used in the work of the Lord.
Well, I think probably the one that has had the biggest impact would be the Women of Good News in Ivory Coast. They had a desire to build a women's center, and it was the center is going to be very important to them, not just for meetings and things like that, but it'll actually be a kind of a dormitory for, I think, around 100 girls to be able to stay there in Bondaku. And in the past, is my understanding of how the school system works in Ivory Coast. The villages have their own kind of elementary schools, but then when you get ready to go to high school, you come into the larger cities. And when they came in the larger cities, they were just kind of assigned people to go stay in their homes, and wasn't always a good situation. And sometimes there was even sexual abuse. So being able to have 100 girls that would be protected is very valuable.
And then the kind of money that we're often able to offer or provide with grants in other parts of the world is something almost unimaginable.
Yeah. Well, the amount that we gave them in their local currency was around $59 million.
Yeah, they didn't have that in most of your local Free Will Baptist churches.
Yeah, of course, it was only 100,000, but that's what it translated to in their local currency.
And so you'll see from time to time in one magazine the different groups who have received grants. Sometimes you'll see even some articles about those. But we're talking about grants that have helped people throughout the United States, throughout the world, really. And these are gifts that are making an impact for the Lord right now.
Right.
There's probably some folks that are interested in applying for a grant. How is it that they might go about that process?
Well, they can go to our website, FWBGifts, it's plural.org, and you can actually download a packet from there, and there's some criteria there that you can read through the packet, and you'll figure out whether or not what you're interested in applying for would qualify. But basically, anybody who's associated with National Association of Free Will Baptists has a right to apply. Unfortunately, we only have $500,000.
Yes.
And that sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about all the ministries that we have in our denomination, it's not very much at all. And I hate to tell people this, but probably only about about 40% of the applicants actually wind up getting a grant. Now, I'm not saying that to discourage people. I'm just saying just be aware that you may not get a grant, but we do want to hear from you.
Right. So you can go, as you heard, fwbgifts.org, in the tab all the way to the right says grants. You could click on that, and then at the bottom they have link to download grant packet. Now, you're saying that only like 40% are funded or whatever. For folks who've worked in settings where they've applied for grants before, that's a pretty high number.
Yeah.
And probably as our grant program does continue to grow in popularity, it's probably going to go down even further.
Probably.
But it's something that I think you all take into account. The criteria is there, and you're able to help Free Will Baptist Ministries, and this is something that's especially for us. So if you're interested in applying for a grant, we encourage you to look there, but I encourage everyone to go to that website, and you can click on the recipients for 2017, 2018, 2019. You can see the different ministries that received those, and it's kind of exciting as you begin to notice how this it sounds like a lot of money, 500,000, but when you start looking at the large number applying, it goes away quickly.
Yeah.
But then you can also get a sense of how whatever it is these people received, how that was taken and used really in a multiplication manner.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at the last 3 years, I believe it's somewhere over 300,000 of that has gone to international missions projects. I think Welch College has received 200,000 for building on the legacy. But local youth camps, state youth camps, have together. There's 5 different ones who have received the grants, 207,000. So it's not just about national ministries. It's about
Free Will Baptist everywhere.
Ministries, yeah, all state ministries, district ministries, any of those.
So we encourage you to take a look at that, and we really encourage you to think about using the Free Will Baptist Foundation for investing funds, for estate planning. It's a way of using what we have very well for the kingdom. What else? Is there anything else you wanted to share with us, David, before we close out today?
Well, I just, it's been an amazing thing to see what's happened in the foundation. I started in 1992. The foundation was founded in 1980, and we had less than $940,000 in 1992. And as I said here, the assets are over $83 million. So
that's all right.
That's pretty amazing.
It is amazing.
28 years.
So it kind of reminds me a little bit of the scripture talking about the mustard seed. And
exactly.
You also, though, we're not known as a wealthy group of people when you think about parable of the talents.
Well, that's what we say.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm not sure we're convinced, because I have run across quite a few people that have a good bit of wealth and have been willing to share it. And
we appreciate them so much for doing that. I suspect a lot of our folks are like, the book, The Millionaire Next Door, weren't very flamboyant, but they saved, they took care of their money. And we do, we challenge and encourage folks to think about what the Lord has given them, and don't be a Hezekiah,
That's right.
Be a person that thinks about the next generation, and this is a way of doing it. Your money, the interest compounds, and it really can help our ministries, and they desperately need the help that our people can provide.
Exactly.
Well, we thank you, brother, for the good work all of you do in the foundation, our estate planners, our folks that go out in the field and are out away from their homes often. Thank you for the good work you're doing. Thank you for the wisdom that we're also seeing. Those assets, you've invested that wisely for us to be at the point we're at today. And so we thank you, David, for the good work y'all are doing, and we just pray that God will continue to bless you and use our people as they give.
Thank you.